Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. We are back again with more Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. And this time I want to do a build of the Witch King, a figure of legend from the Lord of the Rings mythos. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So we're going to play as a fearsome leader. And that's because as the Witch King, we want to be someone who is going to just scare everybody on the battlefield and set them up to be easily dismembered by both us and our party members. So as a fearsome leader, you lose access to the teamwork feats that you usually gain from being a cavalier, and you don't have access to tactician either. However, you gain access to dazzling display from the very first level, and whenever you use dazzling display, it's going to dispel all fear effects on your allies, along with giving you access to good hope at level 9 for a number of rounds equal to our charisma modifier. But that's not the real draw for this. The real draw is Fearmonger, which allows you to gain a +1 bonus on persuasion skill checks made to intimidate, increasing by 1 for every 3 levels thereafter, making it much easier to successfully complete intimidation checks while we are riding on our mount. And then in addition to that, you get the usual things that help out when you are a cavalier. So our charge is going to be significantly more powerful, leading up to the very last level where we'll be able to do triple damage with our particular weapon. And then we also have access to the banner that's going to give you a small morale bonus that might help during times when, for whatever reason, you don't have access to heroism. So we're going to be a Dhampir because I think that's the closest we can get to what Sauron has twisted the king into. So for our heritage, we're going to choose Jiangshi Born, and that's because the Dhampir is a result of a foul ritual, which I think out of all the heritages available is the closest we can get to what the rings have done to him. Background selection, we're going to choose Leader. That's the closest we can get to a king. For attributes, we're going to put 19 points into strength, leave dexterity at 10. Since you are riding on your mount's AC is always attacked first by enemies. So as long as the mount is up, for the most part, you're protected unless you are targeted by an area of effect spell or by an attack that's like a ray attack of some sort. But otherwise, all the regular attacks that will come against you, it's going to go through your mount first. We're going to leave Constitution at 10. Remember, once you become a Lich, Constitution is no longer a factor, and only your charisma is used to determine your health. We get an additional +2 from our background, so we just leave intelligence alone. We leave wisdom at 10 and then pump the rest into charisma, which not only helps with our intimidation checks, but there's also a couple of things we get as a cavalier that use your charisma modifier. So it's definitely going to assist you. Now, when it comes to our skill points, we're going to put a point in athletics, mobility, and persuasion. And then you have one more point that you can use. I personally prefer Knowledge World. I think that's consistent with the lore. The Witch King is traveling all across Middle Earth to spread chaos and look for the ring. You could, of course, put this into perception, but remember, you're going to be riding on your mount. Your mount is going to be very perceptive. And just in general, I don't consider the Witch King particularly perceptive, considering how often the hobbits were able to avoid him and hide from him. So I think it makes more sense putting it into Knowledge World. For your level 1 feat, go ahead and take Mounted Combat. So once per round, when your mount is hit in combat, you attempt a mobility check to negate the hit. This is going to, at least in the early game, help to make your mount more tanky. And remember, we don't have much dexterity, so we're not going to have very much AC. So it's really important that your mount stays up as much as possible. All right, now as a cavalier, you also get to choose an order. I think Order of the Lion makes the most sense. A cavalier who belongs to this order has pledged himself to a sovereign, be it a king, queen, or even the local warlord. I think this goes along with the lore for this character. Now, as an Order of the Lion, you get a challenge that when you issue a challenge, you're going to receive a +1 dodge bonus to your AC against attacks made by the target of your challenge, and this bonus is going to increase over time. You also get Knowledge World as a class skill, yet another reason to go ahead and pick up Knowledge World. And then you also get Shield of the Liege. At 15th level, all of your allies are going to get a +3 shield bonus to their AC. Very nice. You also get to choose an animal companion. I would say that you want to go ahead with the Black Horse. And then as far as deity, I personally chose Rovagug. He's known as the Great Destroyer, and he's someone who seeks to destroy other gods, which I feel like is very consistent with Sauron. And he's imprisoned in a state of torpor. So all of this, I feel like, goes along with the general lore. As far as alignment, I'd probably go with neutral evil. He's not chaotic or lawful. He just does what he's told. There's no way, appearance-wise, you're going to really be able to get him close to what the Witch King really is supposed to look like. So do whatever you like here. Honestly, I don't feel like any of the voices really work for him, so I go with none. Okay, so now that we've been through level 1, let's go through the rest of the class levels. So at level 3, you're going to go ahead and get Spirited Charge, which is going to allow you to deal double damage with melee weapons when completing a charge action. And of course, that's coupled with the additional +4 bonus on attack rolls you'll get when charging as well. So it's a very nice combo. At level 5, you're going to go ahead and pick up Power Attack, which is going to help unlock some other things for you, like Cornigan Smash. So now, every time you damage an enemy with a Power Attack, you're going to attempt to demoralize it, which, if successful, is going to shake the enemy and give it a -2 penalty on a bunch of different stats and unlock things later on down the line for the enemy to be even more vulnerable to you. So very nice. At level 7 is when most of your party members are going to get access to Outflank, so you might as well take it here, and your pet is going to take it here as well. Level 9, we take Weapon Focused Long Spear. So this is one of the few non-canon things that are in the build. Of course, the Witch King is known for using a long sword or a heavy flail. I like the long spear one because it's a reach weapon, and I love having reach weapons on my tanks. Also, the long spear is treated as a lance by a couple of the different weapons. In fact, the weapon I'm going to showcase is referred to as a lance, which actually interacts with the level 20 feet that you get for being a cavalier, allowing you to do triple damage when you are mounted and complete a charge attack. And also, you get another undead party member who's also mounted, who is already set up to use long swords, and there's no way to respect him in a way that will allow you to take that off. So I prefer to not use long swords, let him have it, and instead give a long spear to the Witch King. But of course, you could do whatever you like. Then at level 11, we're going to get improved critical long spear, obviously. Then at level 12, we're going to get Dreadful Carnage, which means whenever you successfully kill an enemy, you're going to attempt to demoralize all enemies within 30 feet as a free action. So this is a huge debuff. The majority of enemies, I'd say probably around 70% of the enemies in the game, are vulnerable to being shaken. So there are some enemies like zombies that are immune to it, but most of the enemies that you run into are going to be susceptible to this. So it's a very, very powerful debuff. In fact, depending upon what kind of playthrough you're doing and the makeup of your team, it might make more sense to take this at level 11 and take improved critical at level 12. Up to you. Oh, also at level 11, you're going to get Mighty Charge, which means you double the threat range of any weapons wielded during a charge while mounted. But these do not stack, FYI, but it might be a reason why you decide to go ahead and delay this, because you already have this if you're charging quite a bit. All right, then at level 13, you take Intimidating Prowess. So you'll notice beforehand we didn't take this. At level 13, it's going to allow you to add your strength modifier to your intimidation checks. So between your high charisma score, and you should definitely be using a headband that increases your charisma, between that and in Dresden, you should pick up an item that's going to give you a +10 boost to intimidation attempts. Between all of that together and having Fearmonger, I feel like you can wait until level 13 before you pick this up. But by level 13, you're either already in or about to enter enter Act 4. And by that time, I feel like you can't put this off any longer, and you're going to start failing your checks if you don't go ahead and pick this up. So I like waiting so that we pick up more of these necessary feats. But of course, if you're playing at a higher difficulty level than core, then it might make sense to push this back and get intimidating prowess earlier. All right, then at level 15, we've got Shattered Defenses. And now any enemy that is shaken by you is flat-footed to your attacks until the next round. So this is very, very powerful because it causes that enemy to lose their dexterity bonus to AC, which for some enemies is a massive debuff. Massive. Some enemies get as much as 10 additional AC just from their dexterity bonus. So this is going to make enemies much, much more vulnerable to the things that you do. Then at level 17, we go ahead and take critical focus, help ensure we get as many crits as possible. At level 18, we'll take improved initiative. So the one real or one of the weaknesses that I see in this build is that your initiative is always going to be very low, or at least it's going to be very low until the very, very end of the game. And to be honest, I feel like that kind of fits in with the lore. You feel the presence of the Witch King and you're fearful of him before you ever actually see him. So I'm perfectly comfortable with him waiting a little bit before he jumps out there. But depending upon your own play style, you might want to move improve critical up, or you might decide you'd rather have less strength and put more points in dexterity. Up to you, but I leave things as is. And then at level 19, we pick Tyrant Critical. Honestly, you could put whatever you like here. I just threw this last feat. If you want to put something like Blind Fight on, you could if you decided to. And then we already talked about Supreme Charge. Okay, so next up, looking at the mythic path. So you start with Dance Macabre, which is going to allow you to channel negative energy, which of course is very important to be able to heal yourself and your undead party members. Leading Strike is going to put a mark on targets every time you are able to successfully attack them. And then your party members can trigger that mark and deal divine damage equal to 1d6 per your mythic rank. This scales very, very well. You're constantly melee attacking, and since you have a reach weapon, you can sometimes hit multiple enemies in that same round. So it's very powerful to be able to put this mark on enemies. I like it a lot. Then at Mythic level 2, you're going to go right back into Mythic abilities, pick up Mythic Charge. You should be charging as often as possible, and this is going to help ensure that it's as damaging as possible when you do it. At level 3, you're going to go ahead and get Mythical Beast. Again, you really, really want your mount to stay up. So this is going to increase the strength, dexterity, and constitution. Constitution matters for your mount until it becomes an undead beast, which doesn't happen until much later in the game. So this boost to Constitution actually does help it, along with ignoring most forms of damage reduction that enemies use. So very, very powerful buff for your pet. You're also going to get a Skeletal Champion, and you'll be able to choose basically a template for your Skeletal Champion. So you have the option of choosing like a double dagger rogue, a two-handed warrior. I think you have a cleric option, and then there's also the marksman. I prefer the marksman because the way this works is you do not have direct control over how this character is built up. So you don't manually choose this feats. They basically just give you a layout of feats based upon the template that you choose. And I do not like the layout of feats for the other ones compared with the marksman. If you choose marksman, that at this point in the game, at Mythic level 9, he's going to have point blank shot, precise shot, rapid shot, deadly aim, clustered shots, mini shot, hammer the gap, improved initiative, critical focus, and tiring critical. So I feel like that's a really nice spread for an archer that I'm comfortable with. And I don't like the comparisons from the other one, so I always go with that. And then we're also going to get Fear Control. So the Lich is going to gain a +4 Profane bonus to attack and a +1 Profane bonus per mythic rank to damage against frightened creatures or ones under any mind-affecting effects. Most of the powers, illusion powers that Nanio uses are mind affecting, and I definitely highly recommend that you use her in your party for this build. We'll get into why more later on. But in addition to all of that, you're also going to get a 10-foot aura that forces enemies to make a will saving throw. DC equals 10 plus half your character level plus your mythic rank plus your highest ability modifier. So this DC can go sky high, and if they fail that saving throw, they will become shaken until the end of combat. A successful save gives immunity to this ability for 24 hours, but it does not give immunity to you demoralizing them once you kill an enemy. So even before you start attacking people with this on, you could potentially go ahead and shake enemies, and once you have shattered defenses, they will be vulnerable to your attacks. So very, very powerful combination. At level 4, you will be able to choose another template for your skeletal fighter. So first you choose basically the original layout of what it has available, and then you get these upgrades to further flesh out what your champion is able to do. So you can make it a fighter, inquisitor, bard, cleric, or magus. I definitely believe that fighter is the strongest option if you have already chosen marksman. So it's going to give you armor training, weapon training. It's going to allow you to choose a weapon focus, and you're going to get an additional bonus combat feat. And it's going to raise your base attack bonus to the skeletal marksman's full HD instead of 3/4 of its HD. When I did, for those of you who watched my Lich playthrough when the game released, at this point in the game, I chose Bard, and my skeletal marksman was missing people basically the entire campaign, even on normal. So it's actually very, very important. If you want him to be a competent archer, go ahead and pick up Skeletal Fighter. Okay, so for the feat, I went on ahead and got improved precise shot. Make sure you do not get improved critical, because even though it allows you to select improved critical, it doesn't allow you to select a specific weapon. So basically the feat is just sitting there. It doesn't actually expand its critical range with long bows or whatever weapon that you choose. So make sure that you avoid that, even though improved critical is not one of the feats the skeletal marksman gets. At level 4 for the actual Lich, I went on ahead and took improved critical long spear. And then in addition, at Mythic level 4, you get Lore Beyond the Grave. So all of the undead that you command within 50 feet are going to gain a bonus to their strength, dexterity, and charisma equal to half your mythic rank +1. So at this point in the game, it's actually +5. And I guess when I get to Mythic level 10, it's going to be a +6 to those stats for all of my companions. Very, very powerful. You can give this to your pet. However, you have to take the undead mount Lich power. So it's going to grant your animal companion all undead traits, as well as this damage resistance 10 against everything except good weapons, and the spell resistance 15. So there's actually a case definitely to take this first. Before Fear Control, or most certainly before you get Death Rush, because it's going to be a massive boost to your pet and really help with their AC, especially when you see the way I built up the pet. I did not go for barding, so you get such a massive boost to dexterity, you're going to get more AC for just depending upon that dexterity bonus. All right, then at level 5, I went ahead and picked up Ever Ready. Since you have low dexterity, combat reflexes doesn't help you to get more attacks of opportunity, so Ever Ready is really the only way to boost that up, and it's going to boost your attack and damage rolls when those opportunities come up. Very, very powerful. And you're also going to get Dark Right. So the Lich and all of his companions in 30-foot radius cast spells as if their caster level was 2 levels higher. Very, very nice. At Mythic level 6, you're going to go ahead, probably get Undead Mount if you haven't already got it, or you might go ahead and pick Death Rush, which is going to give you an additional 1d6 points of damage per Lich's Mythic rank whenever you successfully do a charge or use a combat maneuver. Very powerful. And then you're also going going to get Power Attack Mythic, which is going to significantly increase the amount of damage that Power Attack is able to do. At level 7, you're going to get Unrelenting Assault, which is going to give you a stacking bonus of melee damage, just making you more powerful and able to do more damage. Then at level 8, we're going to get Flawless Attacks, which is going to reduce the penalty we take on iterative attacks. You do a lot of those, so this is actually very useful in this build. And then you also get to choose another upgrade for your skeletal champion. For level 8, I personally go with Inquisitor. So it's going to give you 2 judgments per day, a Bane, and you're going to be able to choose a teamwork feat. What teamwork feat you choose depends upon the makeup of your particular team, but there are a bunch of different ones that are very useful. I might have chosen Shake It Off for this particular one. Then at level 9, again, you've got 3 options to choose from regarding Lich powers. So based upon your playthrough, you'll decide which order kind of works best for you. And then there's also Dimensional Retribution. You can really pick whatever you want here. We have all of the mythic abilities that are really going to help this build. But I like this one because it allows you, whenever you're targeted by a spell, to, as a move action, teleport directly next to that spellcaster. So it allows the Lich to easily get to soft targets that'll let him frighten everybody in the area and quickly eliminate the only people on the field that are a real threat. So of course your mount's AC is being targeted first, and you should be keeping that AC high. So it's going to be harder for melee combatants to really get through to you, but that doesn't help nearly as much when someone's throwing a fireball at you or doing a bunch of magic missiles at you. So like any playthrough, it's important to eliminate the spellcasters as quickly as possible. And then finally at level 10, you get to choose one more upgrade for your skeletal champion. Me personally, I prefer Bard out of the list. It does give him access to haste, and it's nice having one other person with haste to cast for the party, and he'll get access to Mirror Image, which is going to make your skeletal champion a little bit more sturdy. As far as the other two, Magus obviously doesn't make sense because he's at range. It makes more sense in melee. And then Cleric is misleading. It says all spells from the Cleric list, but at least at Mythic level 9, he only gets access up to around level 5. So I haven't actually tested this with all 10 Mythic ranks. So maybe with that 10th Mythic rank, he does get to a level 9 Cleric Spellbook, which could potentially be useful. But honestly, I just give him Bard and let him cast haste and leave it at that. But what you would prefer is up to you. As far as your final Mythic feat, I'd probably go with Improved Initiative. Okay, so now let's talk about the horse build. First and foremost, for its class, I kept it at Animal Companion. And the reason for that is you get access to evasion and improved evasion, which is going to significantly help with your reflex saving throw. We need this mount to stay up, so it's important that it's durable not only against melee damage, but against magic attacks as well. As far as attributes, the first attribute point you should put into intelligence to unlock many of the feats that are available to the horse, and then all the rest of them should go into strength. Also, for your skills, you want to go ahead and make sure you put 3 points into mobility. Since you are going to be fighting defensively, it's going to give you 1 more point for AC, and then the rest of them can go into athletics. Usually I have you put all your points in athletics, but since the Lich is already heavily increasing strength and athletics, he can be the main person handling that particular skill, and you have flexibility to put a few points into mobility. As far as the feats that I chose, at level 1, you want to get combat reflexes. Remember, dexterity is going to be significantly high, so this is actually going to be useful for you. Weapon focus bite, power attack, outflank at level 7, of course. Level 9, blind fight. This is really going to help against those enemies who love to use concealment. Level 11, we're going to go improved critical, then critical focus, improved initiative, improved blind fight, because I feel like at these last 2 feats, you've really gotten everything that you actually need. So why not go ahead and get improved blind fight? I don't feel like concealment is difficult enough where you really want to take greater blind fight. So I just went on ahead and took dodge and added one more to the horse's AC. If you look at the items that I have, I couldn't find knee pads better than this. I know it's really weird for a Lich horse to be using holy damage, but it just is what it is. So this gives him additional 2d6 holy damage on attacks with natural weapons. We've also got the Belt of Bloodlust, so it's going to increase both his dexterity and his strength. And whenever he lands a killing blow, he gets a +5 morale bonus on the next attack roll, which really isn't a big deal because you should be using heroism anyway, but it's there. No armor because we want the boost to armor from dexterity. Then we've got the natural armor boost of +5. We don't have anybody who has access to bark skin, so it's important to have a necklace that gives us that flexibility. Then we've got a helmet that's adding +2 insight bonus to AC, along with a +5 bonus on saving throws against illusion spells. Very nice. A cloak that gives us a +6 resistance bonus on all our saving throws. Braces of armor +8. So then if you look at his AC, you'll see that we've got clear vision, the dexterity bonus of 15, deflection +5 from Shield of Faith, 8 from Braces of Armor, 5 from Magical Vestment, +3 from Shield. Oh, that's the +3 that the Lich gives to all of its party members because we are a Cavalier. Or specifically Order of the Lion. Then we've got that natural armor bonus of +4 from animal growth. Then an additional 14 just from naturally being a horse. Another +5 from the amulet. +1 from the dodge feat and +1 from haste, giving us an overall AC of 71, which is very respectable and should definitely be enough for a tank to get you through core. It's not staggering. So you still want to use things like blur and displacement to try to make sure the horde gets hit as little as possible. But this is definitely solid tanking AC. And just want to note here, when you look at his dexterity, not only does he have the +5 from Lore Beyond the Grave, but then he also has an additional +4 from the Bound of Possibility. We'll look at that when we look at the Lich's inventory. And then we also have a meal that gives +4. So the Conflagrant Taco, you don't get until late Act 4. But it's going to give you a +4, I think, to strength, dexterity. In fact, no, it gives you a +4 to all of your attributes now that I think about it. So a couple of those things you don't have access to until late game, but all the rest of it, the Animal Companion bonus, the Mythic bonus, Lore Beyond the Grave, the Enhancement bonus, this is all stuff that you're going to have throughout the game. So nothing crazy here. It's all just regular stuff that you would essentially get. Okay, now looking at the items for my Lich. If you look at the boots, he's got Boost of Stampede. The wearer of these boots adds their rank and athletic skill as a bonus to the damage roll on a successful charge attack. So again, we do massive damage whenever we charge. Call of the Fiery Things. These gloves grant their wearer the ability to ignite inner fire within themselves. While this ability is active, the wearer suffers 2d6 fire damage per round, but deals the same amount to enemies with every melee attack that hits. In addition, whenever the wearer is mounted, they can use this ability on a mount instead of themselves. So this can be really nice if you know you need to pump out a massive amount of damage really quickly, like for a boss fight. Just keep in mind, you probably don't want to put this on your mount. As the Lich, you're going to have a massive bonus to your health. Whereas for the horse, remember the horse's stats naturally lean towards constitution. So when you change it to undead, the charisma is not going to be nearly as high as the constitution would have been. So consequently, your horse has a lot less hit points than you do, but it has a much higher armor class and its saves are higher, so it's still overall more durable. So for something like that item, you want to make sure that it's taking away from the Lich's massive health and not from your horse. Belt of Thunderous Charging. This belt grants its wearer a +6 enhancement bonus to strength. It also magnifies the wearer's momentum, granting her a +2 bonus on the bull rush and overrun maneuvers. In addition, whenever the wearer of this belt charges an enemy, the enemy suffers a -2 penalty to AC against ranged attacks for 4 rounds. Keep in mind that as a free action, every time we complete a charge, we're doing a bull rush, so that portion actually helps us as well. Then as far as a shirt, we have Clasp of Death. This robe grants us wear a +6 enhancement bonus to all mental ability scores. In addition, if the wearer of this robe has the ability to channel negative energy, it increases the amount of damage this ability does to a living creature or heals to undead creatures by an additional 2d6. We just put on some regular full plate +5 armor. You could decide whether or not you even want to wear armor. Again, the horse should be taking the vast majority of punishment. And when you're wearing armor, you have a 35 arcane spell failure chance. So you could decide based upon the spell book, which we'll go through shortly, whether or not this is something you even want to use, or maybe you just prefer to use robes. The necklace is going to give us a +2 to the highest ability score, which of course is going to be strength, and it's going to give us a +5 natural and armor enhancement bonus. The helmet is going to give us a +4 profane bonus to strength and a +2 profane bonus to AC. The goggles give us a +1 insight bonus on attack and damage rolls against outsiders, and it gives us a +10 competence bonus on persuasion skill checks. So this is the item that I was talking about in Dresden that you want to make sure you definitely get, so that you can get that massive boost and wait longer before you get intimidating prowess. The Bound of Possibility is going to increase your Lore Beyond the Grave bonuses by an additional +4. So all of your party members are getting a +9 to strength, dexterity, and charisma ability scores. Obviously, that is absolutely fantastic. For the ring, it's going to give us a +4 bonus to initiative, and whenever we land a hit, all companions receive a +3 bonus on damage rolls for 1 round. Ring of Luck is going to give us a +1 luck bonus on all saving throws. The Bracer is our phylactery, so it gives us access to deadly magic, which allows you for 3 rounds to cast spells, completely ignoring the enemy's spell immunities or resistances. And it allows you to, whenever your health falls below 0, to automatically regenerate back to maximum, but it can only do this once per day. So you'll notice in our Mythic Path, we do not include Last Stand, and that's actually by design. Partially because we have the phylactery, but also because I feel like it's lore consistent. When the mount goes down, the Witch King is done for. Period. So I feel like it's lore consistent not to have Last Stand, but at the same time, what's a Lich without a phylactery? So I go ahead and leave that in. Finally, we have the weapon, which is the Fabled Hero's Lance. This is a +5 oversized Dragon Bane long spear. It grants you a +2 circumstance bonus on attack and damage rolls while mounted, and you gain an additional 8d6 piercing damage on a successful charge. Now, since it's oversized, that means you take a -2 penalty to attack rolls, but that's not a particularly big deal. You don't face a whole lot of dragons, so the Dragon Bane portion doesn't really help that much, but the Evil Outsider Bane, which means that your enhancement bonus is 2 better against them, and it's going to deal an additional 2d6 points of damage against such foes. That is obviously very, very helpful. So this is a fantastic mounted weapon, and I'm pretty sure there's 1, maybe 2 other long spears that are really, really great to use when you're mounted. So you can make a decision for yourself if you want to stick with long spears, or if you would prefer to be lore consistent and go with the longsword. Okay, so finally, before we get into combat, let's go over the spell book. At spell level 1, you're definitely going to want to use mage armor. At first, you're going to want to use shield, but remember, you can only apply this to yourself. And one of the Lich powers you're going to get later on is going to eclipse shield anyway. At spell level 2, definitely going to want to have false life and mirror image. At spell level 3, power from death, it can be really nice. So you can gain +1 to attack rolls, saving throws, and damage rolls for every dead creature in a 30-foot radius. So in those large battles where you have to kill off a bunch of minions before you focus on the boss, this can obviously be very useful. Displacement can be useful to place on your horse, so it's going to provide a 50% miss chance as if it had total concealment. Very nice. And of course, haste is always a nice buff to have, but hopefully you have other people on the party who are casting haste for you. At spell level 4, you have False Life Greater. Remember, False Life and False Life Greater do stack. You've got Eyes of the Bodak, which allows you for 1 round per caster level to gain a gaze, giving your enemies in 30 feet a negative level each round. So obviously this could be a very powerful debuff, but it only lasts for 1 round per level. Greater Invisibility can be nice to put on your horse, again, if you want to make it harder for people to hit it, to give it more concealment. And you've got Vampiric Blade. It's going to allow you to deal 1d6 additional damage plus caster level, healing the wielder for the same amount, and it's 1 minute per level, so you can keep this on. Definitely nice. At level 5, honestly, I don't feel like there's anything here that's really all that useful. Exsanguinate allows you to deal 1d6 damage per caster level, and if the target fails a fortitude saving throw, it's going to receive 1d6 strength damage and 2d6 bleed damage. So obviously this is very nice, but your DC is so low, most creatures are going to be able to succeed on the fortitude saving throw, but they're not going to be able to avoid the damage. So this can be nice if for whatever reason there's an enemy whose defenses you're just having a really difficult time getting through and you need to use a spell in order to damage them. Keep in mind, Exsanguinate only works with enemies that have blood in their bodies, so it's not going to work against enemies like zombies. At level 6, you have Bone Shield. So this is going to give you a +6 shield bonus to AC, and it's going to make you immune to critical hits, and it lasts for 1 minute per level. Definitely useful for this build. False Grace is going to give you additional temporary hit points, 3d10 plus caster level. Keep in mind that False Grace stacks with False Life and Greater False Life, so you can give yourself a massive boost to temporary hit points. You also have Siphon Time, which is going to cast haste on your allies and slow on your enemies. Very, very powerful spell in the right situation. At spell level 7, you're going to get access to Ice Body, which is going to make you immune to a bunch of really nasty things you don't want your Lich being affected by. You also get access to Blessing of Unlife, which essentially allows you to make an ally undead. Now, keep in mind, using this does not give that ally access to your Lord Beyond the Grave buff. So it's not going to get that buff to strength, dexterity, and constitution, but it will allow it to be healed by negative energy. So if you don't use this on a living party member, then you have to have somebody in your party who can cast positive energy in order to heal that creature, which of course can be annoying. I recommend that you have Nanio in this coupled with this particular type of build, because none of your party members are able to cast really good scrolls, and they're missing some of the buffs that you're going to really want, like Animal Growth or Greater Fang, things of that nature. Heroism. None of your people are going to have that, and none of them can cast it from a scroll. Some of these things you can get from potions, but a lot of them you can't. So having someone like Nanio in the group is really, really going to help you, and having Blessing of Unlife is going to make it easier for you to have her in the party. And then finally, you have Restore Undead, which allows you to fully heal all allied undead creatures. At spell level 8, you've got Frightful Aspect. So it's going to give you a +6 size bonus to strength, a +4 size bonus to constitution, a +6 to natural armor bonus, and you're going to get some damage resistance and additional spell resistance. And most importantly, you're going to emit an aura, and then enemy creatures within the aura are shaken. Very, very nice, very useful for this build. Keep in mind that enlarged person and legendary proportions do not work on the undead. So Frightful Aspect, once you make your full Lich transformation and you're actually considered an undead, Frightful Aspect is the only way for you to get a size bonus to strength. And similar to with your horse, Animal Growth is the only way that you can get that size bonus for your horse. So yet another reason why you want to have Nanio around. Only other thing here that you might somewhat find useful, Domain of the Hungry Flesh. This is a Lich spell. Very, very nice pit. So basically it's going to attack everything inside, trying to trip using your caster level instead of base attack bonus, and spell casting ability score instead of strength, dealing 2d6 plus caster level damage, entangling, and dealing 1d4 damage to a random physical ability score. The area lasts for 1 round per caster level. So in the right situation, obviously this can be really, really devastating. At level 9, we've got Corrupt Magic, which is a fantastic debuff against enemies. So it works like Greater Dispel, where it'll go down the line dispelling as many buffs as possible. But even more importantly, for every dispelled effect, the enemy is going to take a -1 penalty to attack and damage rolls, saving throws, and AC. So even if you only dispel 2 or 3 of the lower level buffs, you're still going to get a -3 penalty on that enemy for a bunch of really critical aspects. So it's really, really nice to put on bosses. In addition to this, you have Negative Eruption, which basically serves as harm that deals negative energy, which is 10 points of damage per caster level, up to a maximum of 150. So it's going to do that to all living creatures, but to the undead creatures that are in your party, it's actually going to heal them, and it's going to give them a +2 bonus to attack rolls, damage rolls, will saving throws, and twice the caster level temporary hit points. So it's basically a massive swing in the fight. And then finally at level 10, we have Absolute Death. Feeling of the imminent death fills the target's heart. It makes a will saving throw. If it fails, the target immediately dies. If the save is successful, the target receives 10 damage per caster level. Again, this is not affected by the target's spell resistance, so even though your DC is low, it's still going to take a massive amount of damage. And the animation for this is literally the finger of death. You never get tired of seeing it, so I definitely recommend that you go ahead and slot it. You also do have access to the Pit of Despair, which is probably the best pit of the game. So it's going to put a Nightshade Nightcrawler in the middle of the pit, damaging your enemies while they're getting negative energy channeled into them. So very, very nice. Okay, so now we're in a combat situation. We've already been surrounded by enemies, and all of them looks like they're pretty shaken up. So we'll just pick the closest grown Nabasu. All right. So, first the Nightmare attempted an attack, and he dealt 70 damage, and the Witch King dealt 110 damage, then an additional 39 damage, and the grown Nabasu died. Then Nightmare attacked the other grown Nabasu, dealt 66 damage. We did a critical miss, but then the Nightmare hit again, did 52 damage, and then we were able to successfully hit, did 102 damage, and an additional 39 damage, and the other grown Nabasu died. And then finally, the Witch King was able to hit the Gribberleth, dealt 98 damage, and another 41 damage, and its Intimidate check easily was successful. And finally, we unfortunately missed that last attack. So the other Gibberleth came from over there, attempted to attack us. We were able to get an attack of opportunity. That hit, and you see we get a +9 to attacks of opportunity from Ever Ready. We were able to deal 102 damage. Our Intimidate check was successful. Dealt another 50 damage. And the Gibberleth died. And then the other Gibberleth was able to do 6 damage to the Witch King because our reflex saving throw failed. Then the other Gibberleth attempted to do tumors next to us again, which allowed us another attack of opportunity. So we were able to hit and dealt 104 damage. Then we dealt another 50 damage to the Gibberleth, and it died. All right, so I used my last turn to get a little bit of positioning, because what is a Cavalier showcase without showing at least one charge? So we'll see if this is successful. All right. So as you see, we were able to successfully charge. We did 66 damage. Then the lance hit, and just a regular hit, not even a critical hit, it does 238 damage. Then another 144, then another 170, then 134, 124. We were successfully able to use a combat maneuver trip, and looks like Bull Rush also worked against it as well easily. Do another 112, 130, and the Abyssal Huntress died. So, as you can see, this build, very, very powerful. Like I said, the only weaknesses I see in it, your initiative is going to be lower. And I feel like you really, really need Nanio so that you can cast some of those needed buffs and to use some of those scrolls with other powers that you might need. But otherwise, as long as you are buffed properly and take the necessary defensive precautions, I feel like this is a fantastic build and will give you the opportunity to roleplay as the Witch King. Looking forward to hearing all of you all's feedback on it. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like, share this content, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.